Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome to another game review. This one's a big one, so get yourself a snack, get yourself a drink, settle in, because we're going to be here for a minute. As you saw from the thumbnail, this is Savage Swords by the Red Room, Miguel and Sylvia. Kudos. Kind of a bit of a glare on this one, a nice shiny cover. Cover actually by Derek Stevens. The comic that's inside was by Chris Villarosa. The stock art throughout the book was from Free Pick, and the world map was from Jay Tanaka. Right off the bat, the map could be a little better, but otherwise everything else is pretty okay. I'm not a huge fan of the comic that's in the beginning. It's a little busy, and I'm not super thrilled with the art style. I like the black and red. I was a big fan of that in various comic books throughout the years, but it's just a little not my style. Let's just put it that way. I'm a huge fan, and I judge just about everything by Bernie Wrightson's artwork. Sorry, but he's my favorite, and if you don't know who he is, go check him out, and you'll understand why. I don't think there was anybody ever better. This big monstrosity, look at that thing. Again, I think this one's leaps and bounds bigger than, let me take the bookmark out, than Uncharted Seas, which I was a big fan of. There are a few things in here I'm not a fan of, already right out the gate, a couple of things with the art, but it's whopping 616 pages, and to be honest, while I love the world setting, I think you could have just lightened the load by making a separate world setting book, but I get it, you wanted to get it all in one shot. Maybe going back and revising the world book, or making a world book, taking what's in here and beefing it up a little. That alone is about 150 pages, which, you know, some world books out there are not that big, although the legendary Lands of Kaz was 900 pages, so somewhere between 150 and 900 would be optimal. I'd grab it. I don't know about anybody else, but at the same time, I'm probably more inclined to make up my own world and only draw it out as the players actually learn about it. That's always been my go-to, is just let them know what they know and make it up as you go along. You never know when you might want to change something and put the mysterious this place or that place closer or further away, depending on your, the longevity of your game and where you plan on going. Right off the bat, I'm going to read the back so you guys get a good idea. Thankfully, this one's easier to read than the last one. The world of Savage Swords is a brutal realm of sword and sorcery, intrigue, and survival. This is a harsh, low fantasy land where blood soaks the sand of ancient arenas and the night hides unspeakable horrors. Harsh landscapes from desolate wastelands to dense, steaming jungles challenge even the hardiest souls. Warlords carve out petty kingdoms amid the ruins of old empires, while powerful aristocrats scheme from their court. Across the world, once great civilizations stand on the brink of collapse, and each day is a fight to see the next sunrise. In Savage Swords, you take on the role of those who dare to defy this world's cruelty. Player characters are hardened warriors, cunning rogues, mysterious spellcasters, or priests of forgotten gods, all struggling to endure where only the strong and clever survive. And, that's normally not really up my alley. Normally I'm a high fantasy guy, but with as popular as this sort of thing has become over the years, the whole sword and sandals Conan, obviously I'm a huge fan of, but normally I just like to read about it instead of try to run it. But I'm actually thinking about running a short campaign of this. Whether it's going to be live or not remains to be seen. I still would like to get into a game of this so I have a better understanding of some of the rules, but I think they're straightforward enough for most players to be able to handle. Real quick, if I can find it. Gosh, I thought it was right at the end, but maybe I'm wrong. I want to show you guys the map. And another thing, I noticed that here it is. With this printing, I don't know if it's Lulu or what, but any of the pages that have, there you go. I'm just going to bring it in close with this image. I'm certain that this art is familiar, this art style, Jay Tanaka's work. Maybe he worked with Venger, but any of the pages that have full color on them have this weird sort of texture, not texture, but penchant to bend and fold, not fold, but curl more so than the other pages, and curl back. Like say you've got it open like this, they'll want to bend like over this way. It's really weird. I've never had that, never experienced that before, but I'm going to put this off to the side because lifting it, I'm going to get a hernia right here on camera, and nobody wants that, trust me. So, right off the bat, the main theme of this game, besides what was described on the back, are these three concepts: struggle, ambition, and luck. All three of those factors, if you keep those in the front of your noggin while you're creating, running, ad-libbing, whatever it is, at the table, you'll be more at home, and you'll have a greater idea of where to steer the game when, in fact, you do try to steer it. I don't really recommend the railroad, but when you want to set the tone, the mood, the theme, those three words will carry you through everything. It's a 3d6 system with 6 stats: strength, wits, intelligence, agility, toughness, charisma, and those numbers can go up or down, I suppose. I don't know about down so much, but the players do have the option or the possibility to raise their stats here and there, but it's not easy. Boy, is it not easy. And everything is based on a D20 versus target number, including the skills, which are leveled 1 to 5, your stat bonus, if any, and occasionally there's bonuses for the situation. But you're looking at target difficulties between 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30, and that 30 is damn near impossible from what I gathered. Maybe there's a few things, even with the highest stat, like an 18, you get a plus 3 or 4, skill level of 5, you're still falling short by 2 points, and if there's some situational modifiers, you're still needing a 20 to make that target number. So if you see those 30s, just steer clear of those activities. That would be my advice. The game has well over, I think, 50 different archetypes. It's not a class-based, but anytime you have an archetype, it is kind of class-based unless you switch your archetype, and you can do that. But there are, let's see, did I write that down? I know I did. Yes, warriors, rogues, nobles, politicians, scholars, artisans, priests, monks, cultists, mystics, and occult scholars, and each of those have half a dozen or so different variations on the archetype. As many of their games in the past, they have an origin and a life path bonus ability that you'll roll up as you're rolling up your character, and depending on what kind of character it is, will determine which chart you roll on. Each life path roll or character archetype, I should say, will gain you a bonus and possibly a drawback, as well as some other tidbits of information. All of your archetypes have starting skill points, starting health points, starting skills, a free perk from the list, a unique feat, some starting gear, which I think it should be a little bit more lengthy. You start out with 3 to maybe 5 or 6 items, and again, they use the acquisition roll to see if you have enough money to get something. I don't like that. I want to know how many coins are in my pouch and how much the item costs to determine whether or not I purchase it, because I wouldn't just go here, take my money, do I get any change? How much is it? How much do you have? Kind of mentality. If something is beyond my price, then I can't buy it. But I've gone over that before in the past with some of their games. And let's go on to the next page. I've got actually 5 pages of notes for this game, so bear with me, folks, and bear with the dog. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to close this so he will not distract me further from this. Talk a little bit about the skills. I really like the skill, and of course, he's right back in here. Each skill has 5 levels and a brief description of what you should be able to accomplish at each level, which I find really helpful when it comes to determining whether or not a player can do something. If it's way beyond what their skill level is, you're going to need that 30 maybe or some such. And each skill also has around 5 options for things that you can specialize in. Each character has access to perks and drawbacks, and there's dozens of perks that all grant specific bonuses for specific situations and are sometimes required for particular archetypes. The drawbacks are negative effects, kind of like weaknesses from other games or disadvantages, and characters will start with at least 1, I believe, and there's a chance to buy them off with experience, like to overcome or get rid of whatever that drawback is. There are 2 sort of alignment systems from what I gather, and one of them is specifically for the holy and devout sort of character types. But there's a path of honor and infamy. It's an alternative to most alignment systems, going from -30 to +30. The more negative, the closer you are to being a scoundrel, a scumbag, a villain, and the closer to 30 you are, the more pious and good-natured you are. Honor points are earned through acts of valor, loyalty, and noble deeds. Infamy points are earned through treachery, cowardice, and savage cruelty, which you're going to see a lot in this game, especially Miguel's specific world. Both have benefits and penalties that play out throughout gameplay. The path of sin and virtue is for those of a more spiritual disposition. And already covered that. Combat. I really like this take on combat. I think it's a little more extensive than previous examples or rules in different games that I've reviewed by Miguel and Sylvia. There's a lot of detailed options that are included that are not usually covered in other sword and sorcery games. Hell, not even most other games, to be honest, except for maybe GURPS, which does it too hard, just too much. This is more fast and loose and easier and quicker to do and play out, at least in my opinion. And they're not just all for fighters, although many of them are. And they add to the tension and options and gritty realism of this game, including specialty styles like for barbarians and knights, dueling, combo attacks, critical hits. Damage and healing, your hit points, as it were, are based on your toughness score, I believe it's called, which is basically essentially your hit points plus, if you're lucky, a couple of d6 extras for like barbarians and knights and things like that. But even some of the other ones still get a little bit of a bonus, which is, I believe, a step up from some of their other games as well. So you could be lucky to be rolling around with 25 hit points, but a short sword or a bow is going to do a d6. Some bows do more damage, obviously. Saber-toothed tiger is going to smack you or bite you, I believe, for a d10. So a couple of hits and you're down. You can go to -10, but don't recommend it. Try to avoid that wherever possible. When it comes to damage and healing and things like that, he goes over infections and treating infections, amputation, which nobody ever really actually talks about in most games, diseases, poisons, drugs, venoms, and their cures and treatment, which is a big plus, especially in a game where, in addition to it being low fantasy, it's also, for the most part, low tech, because it is a sword and sorcery game along the lines of Conan and Kothar and characters like that. The book also covers naval combat, not too in depth, not as much as Uncharted Seas or other games out there, but more than enough to get you going and knock it out for a ship-to-ship battle. If you're going to do, navies against navies, you're going to want to probably come up with something else or use some other rule set to take care of that, or even a fleet versus a fleet. You're definitely gonna it's definitely gonna change the entire session for that evening, if not several evenings. Mass combat is also taken care of in here. War bands and large scale combats, including siege warfare. Definitely, it's got it all. It also covers domain play, establishing a domain, attracting followers, resource and construction, events and encounters. It is missing, in my opinion, taxation, but because everything's on the acquisition roll rules, that you get taxes and you don't know how much they are, so spend until you run out, I guess. You can't really budget anything like that when you don't know what you have, and I know Miguel does that for quickness and ease, but when you're going into domain play, I think you're going to need to know if you in fact have a king's ransom in your bank or your coffers, in case you need to recover your queen or your son, like in Conan, things like that, because that's always a big thing where people are getting kidnapped and ransomed back, and you roll and I don't have enough money. Okay, I guess that's not an adventure for the evening, or we just have to go and sneak in and try and rescue them, which is usually the better option than handing over a chunk of change. But then there are fear and madness rules. What Savage Sword game would be complete without running into some horrific monsters from the before times, throwing in your Cthulhu-esque entities and things like that. And the fear points are accumulated when a character experiences some sort of harrowing event. When a character's fear points exceed more than half their wit score, they must make a panic test. They must then roll and consult the panic table, and depending on how much they failed it by or how much they made it by will actually determine the exact results of the test. If a character rolls a 1 on a panic test, they will succumb to one or more forms of madness. Then there is a carousing chapter, which is for your downtime, which you can roll on the chart to see what happens, and then maybe play some of that out if there's an opening for that. Otherwise, it's like, what happened? Oh, okay, I lost all my money. No surprise. I was drinking and whoring. What do you expect? Or I was rolled or robbed, or maybe I got this weird tattoo and I have no idea where it's from and what it means. Then we come to magic. Magic is a big one. I've always liked the way they do it, but oftentimes it's usually probably better if you never tried, because eventually you'll regret it. Magic is, above all things in this game, rare, costly, and feared, unpredictable, and eventually corrupted. Some of the magic types include sorcery, necromancy, divine magic, shamanic magic, crafting magic items, and curses are included at no additional cost. Okay. Alchemy, there's the procedures, mechanics for creating elixirs, potions. I don't remember if I saw any powders, but those are always fun. I always like using the blowgun against my party with some sort of dust that makes them fall asleep or hallucinate, and then I do things like that. Divination is covered in here, which is always a really tough one, because you never know what's actually going to happen. And when you try to do that, then you create self-fulfilling prophecies of one sort or another, and that doesn't always go over well, because you take away some of the player agency. If it's, only pertaining to the NPCs, it still takes a very, very clever hand to play that out just right. Then there's a huge, and I do mean huge, chunk of random generators for just about everything you can imagine, for cities, ancient structures, forgotten temples, lost tombs, labyrinths, sunken crypts, etc. NPC generators that work really good with the basic character creation process, which, other than rolling up the stats, it's not even 5 minutes to make a character. And maybe if you're having trouble with the skills and the picking which perk you want for your character, but you can easily roll up some very, very specific types of characters, NPCs that is, to throw in the way of your party. There's also a really handy name generator and random encounters based on the terrain and I believe the specific areas, maybe not, which is something you think about throwing into the world books. Supernatural and paranormal creatures. Then it goes into the actual world of Savage Swords, which, again, supplement. Just do it. You'll thank me later. There are more than 22 kingdoms, from what I recall, and a few more places hinted at, like the Lost Continent and the Black Isles that are not on the map, each with details and mysteries hinted at, with a few choice plot hooks. Like I said, it's well over 150 pages. I myself could do an entire video on it once I really dug deep, and I would literally probably have to make more notes. And mind you, I made 5 pages of notes for this video just for that, because it is pretty extensive. Then there's the history of suffering, which covers all of the awful cultural traits and habits and crimes against humanity, basically, including all the vices that you can imagine, from prostitution, debauchery, diseases, drugs, plagues, slavery, torture, racial and sexual inequality, and then it's summed up with the March of the Damned, which I did not read because maybe I might be in it someday, and if not, I don't want to spoil anything about it for those people watching the video who might be invited to a playthrough of that. But that's what I got for you. This was honestly, Wretched Country is my favorite, but this is easily tied with number 2 in my favorites list of games from the Red Room. That would include Uncharted Seas and this one. Meshing them together, you've got well over 1,000 pages of everything you will ever need to run a Conan-esque game on the high seas, or tromping through the jungles, or traipsing through deserts looking for that lost city, or running from your lives from whatever king you pissed off, and now you're on the run. But this is a very fun game. Of all the games that I've reviewed, this one is the one I'm most likely to ever run. Even though I'm a big country fan, finding players for that is not an easy chore. But finding players for a game like this, I think this is a serious winner. Miguel and Sylvia, feel free to hit me up in Discord or even in the comment section below if I got anything wrong, or you'd like to add anything to it, maybe even make a follow-up video of your own so you could just address those things. I will be doing some more sword and sorcery comic related videos to maybe tie in with this, so that people out there, craving that sort of an adventure, have some resources and some inspirational sources to get them more in the mood. When all else fails, I'm sure there's a few 80s movies you could watch as well. But that's what I got for you today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Miguel, Sylvia, thank you for putting this out there. It's definitely one of the better games out there. Definitely in the last 5-10 years, I haven't seen anything that comes close, but I'm always looking, and I will see you guys all in the funny papers. Until then, as always, happy trails.